Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Uresin.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today has been selling on Amazon for almost a decade. He's the founder and CEO of Amazon Lit, which is a seller with a hybrid selling model. And you're going to find this very interesting. When he's not working, he's a fitness enthusiast and he likes the outdoors. So with that, everybody, meet my guest, Eric Castellano. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Nick, thanks for having me. Excited to get into a deep conversation about Amazon, and I'm sure we'll go off on some tangents. So appreciate you.
That's the only type of conversations we have here. One of my friends is a former SEAL team member, and he shares all these things with us from time to time. And one of the things that he shared is anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
I agree with that.
So if you're going to have a conversation, the only way to be is a deep one.
Yeah.
So Eric, tell me something you're doing very well with your selling account right now.
So something we do really well, and we've been doing really well for many years now, is just straight wholesale, where we build relationships with suppliers, brands, manufacturers, wholesalers, and purchase volume products at discounts. That's something we do really, really well.
So is this an arbitrage situation where you're competing against other sellers, or you're just doing it yourself?
So a majority of our business, about 85% of our business, is an arbitrage model where we're competing with other sellers and we're buying the products in large volume at discount. The other 15% is more exclusive.
And that's the part that I'm interested in.
Okay.
So these are what you call the brand exclusive relationships, right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us about that. So first of all, what is a brand exclusive relationship?
So a brand exclusive relationship is when you essentially partner up with a brand, right, through a contract where you're under an agreement that you will be selling and representing their products, their brand on Amazon. So creating listings, running PPC, brand registry, fulfilling the orders, sales estimates of future sales, everything, right? That is the goal with a brand exclusive contract.
So I'm interested in the mechanics of this, because as you know, everything on Amazon is always systematized. There's a process, and then you can come up with these great ideas, but how is that going to be implemented on Amazon? So for the listeners' benefit, so let me just lay this out. So there are two types of sellers. Seller number one goes in and creates a seller account, creates a brand registry account, and they own a trademark on a particular brand, and then they apply to have their brand registered on their brand registry account, and that requires the brand registry account holder to be the same as the trademark holder, because that's how you are saying that we own this brand, so therefore put it on my brand registry, and then you link it up with your selling account. So that way, everything you're selling through your selling account, Amazon then sees you as the owner of the brand. So therefore, you get to create an ASIN. Later, you can modify the contents of it and everything else. So this is your typical private label selling operation. Yeah. So, and the goal here is very simple. You own the ASIN. You can make any changes you want to that particular list. The second type is you go on Amazon, you buy wholesale at a competitive price, and you add your listing to your Seller Central account for an existing ASIN. So in fact, you're creating a listing in your Seller Central account for an existing Amazon listing.
Yes.
However, you don't get to make changes to the content. You don't get to change the title, the description, the A+, and the pictures and all that stuff. You don't have the rights because you don't own that listing.
Yeah,
So
very, very limited changes you can make.
yes,
If-
you can sell all day long. You could be the top seller on it if you have the best price and you have the best metrics and everything else, and you don't violate any of the Amazon rules, and that you are an authorized reseller. And that even then, it doesn't stop you getting in trouble.
Authorized, yeah.
Right. So, nevertheless, assuming that you don't get in trouble, you can sell it all day long. Those are the two models. Now you come in with this idea that you have a brand exclusive relationship, which means that nobody else is selling. You are the only one selling. However, still, it's not your listing. So walk us through how does that model fit into working with brand register? Do you put that on your brand registry account?
So there's two ways to do it. The first way would be the way you just described a couple minutes ago in your description of enrolling for brand registry. So essentially, we would, through my account, I would go to brand registry, have the trademark of the brand that I've got the exclusive with, and register the trademark through brand registry for the company. Because as you know, the process through brand registry is going to email the trademark company that trademarked the product, or the lawyer that trademarked it. They're going to give that lawyer a code. The code's going to give it to the brand. So then the brand would just give me that code, and I'd finish the brand registry process.
Okay.
That's option number one, Nick. Option number two is becoming what's called a registered agent under their brand registry account. So you would take your Seller Central email, give it to them, and then you'll have access to their brand registry through your storefront.
I see. So both of those scenarios then will require the brand registry account to be in the name of the brand itself. It's not
Yes.
in your, right?
No, it has to be underneath the trademark of the brand that's selling. Yes.
Okay, so the brand registry account has to be, so let's imagine that you've got a company that owns multiple brands, and then let's assume this is one of those old school guys. They haven't yet upgraded to the 21st century.
Yeah.
They use email. Everybody uses email, but they don't really understand all this online authentications and codes and all that stuff. However, they did their essential work. They registered their trademark. So now you go to them and say, listen, I want to be your exclusive seller. Why don't I open a whole new channel? They say, okay, go ahead. So now you have to create a brand registry account for them, right?
No, if you said they already had one, right?
They don't have a brand registry account. They just have a trade.
No, yes. So then step one would be creating it for them. And that's something we like to do because it relieves any pressure from their side. I like to just create it for them, but if they're not comfortable, that's when we say, hey, we'll show you how to create it, and you can add us as a registered agent.
Okay. And when you create that brand registry account in their name, in option one, you are putting your own email address as the contact. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay. So right there is a situation because that people have to be, I mean, you're doing it right. I'm just saying for the listeners' benefit, anybody listening, if you use an email that is already on record with Amazon, and then whatever that email is associated with, now suddenly the brand registry is going to be attached to those things, right?
Yeah. Well, right now, the way we have it is like under my one email for my seller account, I have 5 registered brands, 3 of which I own, 2 of which are brand direct relationships. So, and they're all under one email, right? That I could see them all through my Seller Central.
Right. Okay. Alternatively, what you are saying is if they have a brand registry account, they can invite you as a registered agent.
Yes.
And then you, so does that give you, okay, I understand. So now suddenly you have access to brand registry, which means you can file complaints and do anything you want. And then
update
how
your
does
listing. Yeah. Yeah.
how is that linked to your Seller Central account for that particular brand?
So you have full control. So if you wanted to edit listings, you could pop in and edit listings. If you wanted to remove a seller for whatever, let's say they're selling inauthentic products or whatever the case may be, that would be done through the support that brand registry offers. So it wouldn't be done on the 3P Seller Central side. It would be done through brand registry submitting those.
Yeah. So the key here that I'm thinking, and tell me if this is accurate, but the email address you used on the brand registry account is the same as the email on Seller Central primary. And because it's the same, you are now able to edit the listings for that particular brand. Is that right?
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
If they are not the same, then you cannot edit the listings, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be able to log into, well, you would be able to, no, you could if they weren't the same, because you would just be able to log into brand registry with that different email address, right? But you're right, it wouldn't have the connection through, so no, it has to be the same. You're right, Nick.
Right.
It has to be the same because it wouldn't have the connection to recognize that you are a brand owner.
Right, exactly. So how, because editing a listing, creating a listing, editing a listing is done through Seller Central. However, the rights to be the owner of a brand is done through brand registry. So how is the connection between Seller Central and brand registry materialized if you are the registered agent? Because then it's a different email addresses.
Yeah, so I know from my side, like for example, I was editing, we represent a Nestle company, so super large, multi-billion-dollar business. We represent one of their product lines on Amazon. So I made some listing changes to their listings yesterday. And what I do is I make the edits in Seller Central, right? And then sometimes I have to go to brand registry and go to customer support to kind of give them a push in the back end to update the listing edits that I made on Seller Central.
I see. Okay.
Not always though. So not always. Sometimes directly through Seller Central, the change goes into play. Like this morning, I made some changes. They were immediately affected. But if they're not, I got to get on the support with brand registry to give them a back end push.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is, when you assign somebody as a registered agent, you are probably doing that for a specific brand. And therefore, when you do that, that email address that they submit as registered agent, if it's for a Seller Central account, that may automatically be linked.
Yeah. I've never had any issues with any connections. So
yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So this is so what is the primary advantage that brand exclusive relationships offer?
Control is the primary advantage. So control, and you're able to really hone in and focus on growing the brand, because that's the goal, right? Partner up with these brands who are good at growing brands. They're great at creating products. They're not good at selling on Amazon. I'm good at selling on Amazon. So I take over their Amazon side so they could focus on growing the brand, and I'll scale out their listings, brand registry, enhanced brand content, PPC, projections for future stock and sales, everything. We'll take care of it.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to the next phase. So give us the roadmap, so to speak. How do you go about implementing this? Once you say, of course, first thing is find the company, and then agree with them. What is the best argument to give? Why should they? So say I'm a brand owner, and then you come to me. Then why should I give you this? Why not somebody else? Why not do it myself?
Yeah. So one of the issues we usually like to point out is their current landscape on Amazon. And usually when you dive into some of these keeper charts and look at the data, you'll see historical out of stocks or inconsistent price points. Like these are things that deter consumers from purchasing brands, right? If they come in today, it's $25, tomorrow it's $35. It's not really consumer friendly. So like bringing those consistent price points and consistent in stocks is a huge selling point because they're able to scale revenue in their own company just by making those simple changes.
So you are going in and saying that, look, this is now all over the place, and then let me
Yes.
do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the scenario where other people are selling it, and therefore there's all these inconsistencies. Like I have a client, and they sold masks. They sell masks,
Mhm.
and these are not anything to do with COVID. This is just like woodworking and iron workers and things like that. And they did very well, of course, during COVID because everybody needed any kind of mask they could get their hands on.
Yeah.
But they made a big mistake, and they supplied a retailer with, and they all overbought anyway. So, and the next thing is, the market is flooded with masks because one of the retailers unloaded for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So they made a huge loss. However, the mask was selling at $35, and it started selling at $7-8 a piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had no idea how to protect their brand or nothing, none of those things. So, and there are so many sellers, like on each listing is like 8-9 companies selling.
Yeah.
So what you are saying is, instead of a brand selling, their item selling real low and then in and out of stock all the time, you go to the brand and say, look, let me handle the selling, give me an exclusive relationship, and I'll clean up this whole landscape, and I'll keep ramping up your revenues. That's the value proposition. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's not a fight to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable how quickly that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the big components of these brand relationships, Nick, and I'm glad you brought it up, is really explaining to the brand the importance of controlling your supply chain as well, making sure your inventory is not getting into the wrong hands. Because if it gets into the wrong hands and ends up on these marketplaces, it becomes challenging to start removing it from the marketplaces.
Yeah. And by having a brand exclusive relationship, you also prevent the manufacturer itself selling to resellers, which they do.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you are competing against those resellers. You eliminate that issue.
Yes. Yeah. So it's a partnership because they have to do their part. They have to actually abide by the contract and be willing not to sell to these resellers, and also be mindful because some of them are pretty sneaky the way they get in to open accounts,
Oh yeah, always. They people are always trying on Amazon, trying to game the system. After 20 plus years, it's coming up to 30 years.
Wow.
They're still thinking this is like $1 trillion company. They have perfected. And there are still some people with their little minds, they think they can game the system.
Yeah. And they might get away with it for a little while, but in the long run, it's not going to pay off.
Yeah, and it's not for the long run. Okay, so the other argument is, okay, why give you this brand exclusive thing? Why can't they do it themselves?
Yeah, because as we know, and I'm sure people listening, and selling on Amazon is not a breeze. It's not something you just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm going to start selling on Amazon. There's a lot of subtle nuances and things you need to know, like projections and forecasting and ranking these products and updating the images and dealing with customer complaints. And like, there's a whole ball game that's completely different from what they do. So most of them, they don't know where to start. And they're looking for people like me to kind of guide them on that journey.
Yeah. And in your relationship, do you expect them to contribute towards creating content like pictures and videos, or do you do that all at your own expense?
Yeah, so for images, I have no problem taking on all the images. I have a great lady that I use that I've had a relationship with overseas, and I could get images whipped up super cheap. But as far as ad spend, I usually like to request that they cover it, 100% of it. And then any video content, I would request that they would be creating as well.
Okay. And do you get a pushback on it or no?
No, because usually what I do is I say, hey, listen, I'll run ads for 2 months. I'll cover the expenses. I have no problem spending a couple $1,000s for my business to prove that this model works and spending on PPC can really grow. And then I'll come back with the data. And if you're comfortable, you take on ad spend.
I see. Okay. All right. My next question is, now that you are doing this, and you're doing this, of course, with several companies, right?
Yeah.
So give us about the oversight on how do you know what are some methodologies to monitor how much money it's making, and also some things that you use as performance metrics. What do you look for in a relationship like that as a performance metric?
Yeah, so one of the things that in a lot of brands you'll find is they're looking for year over year cost of goods growth, right? They're looking like, are you spending more money with me? So something we track is how much money we're spending on inventory with these companies. So for example, one of the businesses, we've been an exclusive with them for almost 3 full years now. Year 1, we spent about 200,000. Year 2, we spent about 500, and last year we spent about 800. So this year we're in projection to do about 1.2, 1.3. So year over year, when you look at it in the big picture, the business is growing.
I see. So that means that in your financial system, you've got to have a way to track cost of goods sold and sales and all the associated expenses per brand, right?
Yes, 100% per brand. We're tracking that. Not only per brand, but also on the ASIN level to find out what the winning SKUs are so we can make sure that those are consistently replenished and running proper ads and coupons to keep them ranked well.
Okay. So as far as the metric, one metric that I heard is very valuable is cost of goods sold growth per brand. That is a metric that you always want to monitor. What else? What else can you share as far as monitoring the success of a brand?
Yeah, so something cool is order size. We like to track order size per specific product. This way we can run volume discounts, because if a customer is historically purchasing multiple items in one purchase, I want to reward that customer with 10% off the additional item or 15% off 2 additional items. So like tracking that data and also the demographics that brand registry provides, they'll tell you if the customers are married, single, what their age is, what their level of college education or education is, where they live. They give you so much data, and you could run back to the brand with that data. That brand could build out TikTok campaigns, Google campaigns based on that data that Amazon provides and drive additional traffic to the brand. So you can work it in a lot of different ways then.
Yeah. So you brought up an interesting point just now. And in fact, I picked that up as a curious point because I was analyzing the business reports last week. And then suddenly something hit me. Amazon reports units ordered, in other words, total number of pieces. And then they also report total order items.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, we all know average order value, right? Which is what you mentioned. Average order value means what? It means total sales divided by number of orders, right? So that's your average order value. And you can do this per SKU, per ASIN. So they report that per ASIN. Okay. They also report units ordered.
Yeah.
And as you know, they are not equal. So you can have one order with 3 items. They may buy 3 pieces. And then suddenly it hit me. Wouldn't it be neat to have another metric called, instead of calling it average order value, why not call it average item value? Called AIV. Guess what happens then? When you compare.
Oh, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
When you compare AOV with AIV, what you are seeing is how many pieces people are buying per order. And if they are close to each other, you want to make them far, from each other. So you can offer coupons and things like that. And if they are already far, that means something is working, then you do more of it. So I thought this would be a neat thing. Tell me what you think about that approach.
Well, I'm just a little confused by your difference. What was it, AOV and AIV?
Yeah, one is average order value. In other words, when people place an order, how much they spend per order. The other one is AIV. That means divide the total sales by the number of pieces purchased. So now that gives you the value per piece. So imagine you have one order, they bought one piece. So AOV and AIV will be equal, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody bought 3 pieces, AOV will be 3 times the AIV.
Yes.
So when you see them together side by side, you can say, oh, why don't I give a coupon for buying 2 pieces or more?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the approach.
Yeah, and that's the data that we're analyzing. Absolutely. Because I want to know how many average orders a customer's purchasing. And the closer it is to 2, the more prone I would be to give some sort of incentive to push those customers who are close to getting 2 as well.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something that basically you brought the customer in there, and if they buy 2 pieces rather than 1 piece, you're making more money, right?
Yeah, even with the discount, right? Because what I think is cool through Amazon's volume discount is you could do a discount off the second item. So what I'll do is buy 1 or buy 2, save 10% off the second item, right? So really it's only a 5% discount off the total item price, opposed to a 10% because it's 10% divided in 2 because it's 2 orders.
Exactly, yeah. So these are the tricks that you can use. I mean, tricks in the sense that you are offering value, and then now you can take that a step further. Now what you can do is, if you see that this is consistently that people are buying 2 pieces at a time, you can make a 2-pack.
Yeah, a 2-pack. Yeah, absolutely.
And then the 2-pack, you have a smaller FBA fee, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You apply the same discount. It's a variation. You're not doing anything extra. Yeah. And now the trick would be to increase the number of pieces bought on that 2-pack.
Yeah.
And then it becomes never ending. And you can just go from there. All right, great. So this is great information. So tell us the model you're using. I'm assuming FBA, right?
Yes, FBA. We are 100% FBA.
Okay. And would you recommend? How about if it's a high ticket item?
Listen, I think early on it's important to do an assortment of FBM and FBA because you're going to establish growth at different models. So yeah, if you got some high ticket items and you want to sell them immediately, then yeah, FBM them, but if you got a lot of them, it'll be a lot of work. So I prefer to really my volume products, I prefer to FBA.
Yeah. So I totally agree. I think that for high ticket items, I would definitely go for FBM at the beginning, but even after you establish a trend, then you want to switch those to FBA because you don't want to be in fulfillment business, right? That's just too much time waste.
And one of the main reasons we stopped FBM was, one, it just wasn't cost effective for our business model, and 2, dealing with all the customer returns and the complaint. It's a nightmare. It really is.
Yeah.
At scale. Couple orders a day, no problem. But hundreds of orders a day, it gets out of control.
No, and the goal is to scale it. So when you scale it, the problems with FBM will scale. You have a lot more metrics, and then your seller account takes a hit, and you can jeopardize the entire seller account if you're doing a good job with the FBM items. Okay, cool. Well, this is a great business model, and I'm sure people listening to you, they'll be inspired by this business idea. It's the easiest way to go after. You just need to do your research, right?
Yeah, you need to do your research, and you're going to get told no a lot. Most brands, they don't like Amazon sellers, so it's a tough conversation to have. But as long as you keep the brand's vision in mind, and one of the questions I like to ask them in the forefront of the conversation is, Like, what is your vision for your brand? Like, what would you like to see happen on Amazon? So then they could tell you exactly what they're looking for. And then you just come back with that information that they provided.
And as far as, can you share with us some tips on how you pick these brands? Is it the category you're going after? What drives you in terms of, well, this is who we want to carry?
Yeah, so there's a few things. One of them is usually a great way to start is a brand that you've been carrying already because you have a lot of data on it. So if you've been historically selling it and you've been buying it from a specific supplier or vendor, right? Trying to cut out the middleman and go direct to the brand and opening up that conversation is a great way to really start brand direct relationships. Another place I like to look is a software called Smart Scout. And I'll search, sellers or brands that are right between $40,000 to $75,000 is a real sweet spot where a brand kind of sees the opportunity, but they usually don't have the skill set to take it to that next level.
Okay, $40,000 to $70,000 a month.
Yeah, it's like the sweet spot. Sometimes I'll go up to 100 depending on the category, but most of the categories we're looking in are grocery and beauty.
Okay. And of course, it's a no-brainer. You don't want to go to a brand who's already selling on Amazon directly.
No, you actually can, because a lot of times those brands are just doing a poor job at it. So those are great opportunities to kind of pitch them like, hey, I can do better than you're currently doing, and you can focus on your brand.
So what if one of those brands said, okay, fine, then we'll do that, but you go manage our seller account. We don't want to give you, how does that sound to you? Is that attractive?
Yeah, we will do that. We've done that in the past. It's not our preferred method. I definitely try to push the other method just because it's much easier. But some brands, they don't want to relinquish control, and I completely understand that. It's their baby.
Yeah, that's great. So, Eric, let's talk about a little bit on the different aspects of running the Amazon operation. So obviously, you have a business model, you mentioned earlier wholesale being online arbitrage, bottom line. But also there is a way to do wholesale on Amazon too, right?
Oh, what do you mean?
Like B2B, the B2B.
B2B makes up about 8 or 9% of our sales. So we do some B2B as well, yes.
So share with us some of that activity. How do you manage the B2B pricing? And then also share with us some of those ways that Amazon, especially for Amazon business accounts, they give you access, like if you're government and things like that.
Yeah.
So some of the ways to qualify for that B2B programs.
Yeah. So B2B is very simple. Any Amazon seller can get enrolled in B2B. You just search business to business in the search bar of Seller Central, and it will take you to the B2B page. So like I said, B2B makes up 8 or 9% of our sales. And the cool thing for anybody listening about B2B is your order size will be much greater. Nick and I were just talking about order sizes. Our average order size is over 2 units for B2B customers, which is great because it increases average selling price, and it's also eliminates the chances of a return. Right, the chance of a school or a government agency purchasing, a couple rolls of toilet paper or some cleaning soap and returning it, slim to none, which is amazing. And as far as discounts, so we offer sometimes 5% for our B2B customers on some of our larger volume products, but for the most part, we don't add any discounts to our B2B products. We just have them listed so business customers can shop for our products.
Do you use tiered pricing for offering B2B or just single?
So no, just single. There's once in a while for specific products, we'll set up tiered pricing. It's all based because wholesale margins aren't phenomenal. You're talking 18, 19% margins. So I can't give away too much margin, to the consumer. So we're always being mindful of our pricing. So for specific products, we'll go through and offer tier discounts, buy 3, get 5%, buy 5, get 10%. But for the most part, it's pretty just straightforward, standard across the board.
Okay. And on B2B sales, for those who may not have seen it, when you go to your settlement report, you have 2 tabs. One is standard orders, the other is invoiced orders. Invoiced orders are the orders that are primarily B2B orders that Amazon, opens an account with their business and they can buy it all day long, but they are giving credit at your expense, right?
Yes.
So that is something that you want to keep an eye on. If you want to do B2B, then you have two settlement dates. You have one settlement date, and both of them run every other week. But one is for standard, one is for B2B. So in terms of your accounting and your systems, you just have to make sure that that's how things work, and you have to be ready for it. Don't be confused. So two sets of reconciliations and two sets of everything if you're doing B2B, right?
You got to be on top of it. And I actually just pulled our B2B up. It's actually 4%. It's not 8% of our sales. It's 4%. And our average orders like 1.9, which is great because for our standard products, our average order is like 1.15.
Yeah, that's great. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about your operation. What is the best way, in your opinion, to structure your team in terms of roles and responsibilities to manage the Amazon account? Who does what?
Yeah. So over at my facility in the Northeast here, we have a 40,000 square foot space. About 37 of it is warehouse. The other 3,000 or 4,000 is office. So in the warehouse, we have three main positions, right? Those positions are packers and pickers, right? And then a management team managing the packers and pickers. But the packers, their job is just packing inventory all day. Right, processing inventory, labeling it with FN SKUs, polybagging it, shrink filming it, whatever the process may be. The pickers, their role is to count the inventory that's received, make sure there's no discrepancy reports, move the products to the production station so the production stations can efficiently produce the inventory to get it palletized and then ship it out. And then upstairs at the offices, we have a few main positions. The first is a buyer, right? That's someone who purchases all the inventory that we sell. They're estimating how many units we should buy. They're negotiating discounts. They're communicating with the brands. And then we have a few team members who do like account health, right? Any issues with customer complaints, any ASINs that have been removed from Seller Central, listing updates, their sole job is managing that. And then recently, about 2 or 3 years ago, Nick, and this is the last position we have, and we have 6 of them now, we brought on web development team. So they're building out internal softwares to be more efficient in our process, because that's the difference between a $60 million a year business, and a $150 million a year business is your systems and infrastructure.
Right. How about content? Who handles the content?
Like listing updates and images and stuff.
Yeah, creating the images and updates and optimizing and things like that.
Yeah, so that's the buyer's responsibility. So the way we see it is, hey, you purchased the product, you spent the company's money on the inventory. It's your responsibility to make sure it's selling, right? So fix the listing if it's broken.
Yeah, make them listing optimizers.
Yeah,
that's one day they may leave you because they become so good at optimizing listings.
Start their own business, right?
Yeah. Because
Listen,
you're giving them a skill.
Yeah. And if they did, I'd say, listen, more power to you. I'm super excited and I look forward to using your services.
That's the great way. How about running your PPC?
So I actually manage all the PPC in-house. We have very minimal PPC. For our brand direct relationships, we have some brands that give us $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. And I manage that internally, very straightforward. Average cost on our accounts about 4% right now.
Wow, that's cost is 4%.
Yeah, 4%. Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. I've never heard that. cost. How about your take cost? What is that? 0?
Oh, it's less than a penny, man. It's like it's less than 1 penny on every dollar. So it's less than 1%. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I've never heard this anywhere. So you're doing great.
The way we accomplish that is high budget, low bid, catch-all campaigns for a large amount of wholesale products we sell.
I see. Okay. Well, this was great. A very unique model in terms of how, and thank you for walking us through the mechanics. It's because that's where everything gets very complicated. So let's get to know you a little bit now. Tell us about who you are. Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey, born and raised, and I still live in New Jersey today.
And so you obviously you are an entrepreneur. So I'm interested in learning your experiences growing up, the growing pains as a kid. When was the first time you realized that you like to make things happen?
Yeah, I was like 14, 15, and I would go to, New York City's only like a 30, 40-minute bus ride. I would go to Manhattan and buy fake like Gucci purses, Dooney and Burke, Louis Vuitton, and I would sell them to people in school. And then I started like buying jewelry and candy, and I started saving up a nice chunk of money when I was a little kid, man. I just loved it, I really did.
But this did not really start at 14, 15. It must have started way before.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You remember what was the...
Well, I remember like when my grandmother, she'd give me cash for my birthday and stuff or Christmas, and I would stash it. Like I wouldn't spend it on anything. Like I was waiting to build up this like bag of financial freedom and like just keep stacking on top of it. And I did pretty well, by the time I was 18, I had like $50,000 or $60,000 I saved up, which was pretty cool. And then I went to college.
Why did you feel as a kid, you want candy, you want toys, you want everything, and you've got money. Well, what stopped you from going out and getting some of those things?
I would buy them, just not in excess, not enough where it would actually deplete the cash that I was trying to collect. I don't know why I had this vision that I had to have a certain amount of money to kind of feel comfortable at a young age, but I had it and I was driven to achieve it. So
you felt that you had to save up and you had to have enough money as a kid. You thinking this? Yeah. And why do you think that was? Was it you had shortage? It was a crisis?
No, I was well taken care of. I guess I was maybe it was the way it's probably, now that I look at it in retrospect, the way my father viewed money. It was just, he worked very, very hard for it. So like when we spent it, it was important that we were doing things that like brought the family together. And I just saw the value that really money had for a family and the experiences that they could have. And I think really I just wanted more of that because I saw the cool stuff that money provided for my family.
So your relationship with your father was a close one?
Yeah, definitely. And it still is. Yeah.
So when you felt that, he worked very hard, was that something he advocated that, look, I work hard for it, so be careful? Or was it all on your own, feeling that, no, I should do this way?
No, he never really talked about it or threw it in my face that like we work really hard for this. I just saw it, I saw the guy get up every day at 5 a.m. and wouldn't come home till 8, 9 at night for, my entire childhood and teenage years of living with him. So I saw how hard he worked,
By the way, was he an immigrant?
No, he was not. His parents were immigrants, but he worked in the restaurant industry, which is grueling for many years. And now he's in food service. He works for one of these big Fortune 500 companies.
The reason I ask is because everything you said, almost word by word, reminded me of this documentary called New York by Ken Burns. Yeah. And I watched this documentary. It's all about history of New York. Goes way back to New Amsterdam days, when the Dutch settled and they started doing things. So you see a bunch of historians talk about New York, and they also have these, average people who were basically trade people, carpenters and whatever. I don't know how they picked them, but this guy was talking about, again, history of New York and mostly the spirit of New York. So, and New Yorkers. And he was saying that his father was an immigrant and he came to America to make a better life for his family. And he fought in the war, in the Second World War, and he got wounded and he had a bad knee. So he was saying that they lived in Staten Island, and his father would get up at crack of dawn and go to work every day. It was 3 siblings to put food on the table. And he was saying that he grew up seeing his father working so hard, and often like he would hear him moan because of the pain in the mornings. And he said that he grew up thinking, I must honor this.
Yeah.
So he said, that's the spirit. He says, that's why as an immigrant's child, I know what put me here and what gave me this opportunity. So therefore I must work in a way that will honor that. Yeah. So you almost said word by word. So for you really, everything you're doing, what's driving you, the way I see it is, it's, you're looking to honor your father's hard work at the end of the day.
Yeah. And it's all coming together. So just a couple of weeks ago, I flew my whole family out to Las Vegas for a week, and we had like an amazing time. So like, it's all coming to fruition now, and they're really getting to see the fruits of my labor, because now they're getting older and I'm able to do the things for them that I wish I could have done much earlier, but I didn't have the finances.
Yeah, well, listen, what matters is you're doing it, and you're doing it for the right reasons. And again, my theory is always, any successful entrepreneur, you look at them, what motivates them is never money. It's always something else. And here, in your case, it's an honorable cause. So, Eric, share with us your contact information. How can people reach you?
Yeah, so the best place is Instagram, Amazon_lit. Also, our website, AmazonLit.com. Basically, just search Amazon Lit in Google, and you'll see our YouTube and all our socials. And please send me a message. I respond to them personally. I'd love to get to meet you and learn about your business a little more. So I appreciate you.
I'm sure you will hear from people, and this was a great conversation. Thank you for being here, Eric.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you.
And this brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.